Well, hi everybody, how's it going? Josh Moore here. And I'm going to quit teasing you guys about this next upcoming video. And we're going to get to it right now. What I have worked out is, somebody may have worked this out before, but I haven't really come across anything like it yet. But what I've come up with was a way for those of you that don't want to do an entire spindle swap. One, because you don't need the upper geometry to change on your control arm. You just want a really simple brake upgrade, and you want to be able to put normal rear-wheel drive 5-lug wheels on the front of your car. So without further ado, I'm going to grab the camera off the stand here in front of me, and then I'm going to get it down here. I kind of have a mess at the moment because I finally got some 220 into the garage for the welder, and it works. So a lot more stuff coming up here real soon, as well as more stuff on scooter. But anyway, back to things at hand. Let me get you off the stand here and down here on the floor where the stuff is, and I'll go over what the list is here for this particular setup. All right. So I know you guys have been listening to me about the spindle swap for the 62 to 67 Novas being directly bolt on to the ball joints, only needing the steering arm of the correct geometry to work with the rack and pinion, and then you're pretty much wide open for any and all aftermarket brake systems for that spindle. However, I decided that while we were at this, me and Josh Taylor started talking about the G-body S10 and base model 3rd gen F-body rotors and calipers, commonly referred to as the 10.5 inch rotor. This is the stuff that a lot of guys have to adapt to their early drum cars because they have running 14 inch wheels, and the 11 inch rotors that come in the drum hub setup for the 99-02 Grand Am that I spec'd, as well as anything 70s to 80s that used the larger rotor. The larger 11 inch rotor was 15 inch wheel only. So this gets a 14 inch wheel on there, but it also, as you guys have seen, gets a normal rear-wheel drive wheel underneath the car with no need for special wheel offset. So the recipe, as you can see, gets the rotor super close to the arm. It also gets it super close to the steering stop, but it's a safe distance. It's just as compact as you can physically get. Now what this is a stock spindle. That is an S10 caliper, or what would normally be referred to as the S10 caliper, and then the 10.5 inch metric rotor. Now this is a variation of this setup. This originally, if you guys had listened or had been listening before to me talking about the set 30 bearing for this, I have since discovered that the set 30 bearings are still available. You just have to go directly through some suppliers, through manufacturers for them to get them correctly. Because as you guys saw, I ordered my Timkins and they showed up way small, way wrong. Also, the seal for this is weird. While it does work, it's a little tight right here, and that has always been kind of a concern for me with that kit. What this does, this particular setup uses a seal that is a common machine shaft bearing grease seal. So I contacted the company that has them, and I'll put a part number right here, and the company that has them, and they're like $10 or $11. They're in stock. The castle nut On the Chevette castle nut, it's not cut very deep. So you're actually going to take your castle nut and you would cut it down to about here, which is where the castle nuts are cut for those spindles. The big spindles back there. The castle nuts are cut. Yeah, here's one right here. They're cut way down into the groove. Okay, so that's one modification. And that's just so the cotter key will still go through the holes, because this is kind of a long setup for that spindle. But we don't have to do any machining on this rotor. We don't have to drop the bearings in any further. It's all bolt together. So this is a Chevette nut that needs to have the cotter key holes cut down further on, and a Chevette washer. And then that's a set 2 bearing with the spacer sleeve, just like the old hub setup took, and then a set 30 bearing on the inside with the shoulder chamfered on it so it fits tight against the spindle, which actually was very easy to do with a Dremel tool after I butchered the hell out of it with the grinder first, because I was in a hurry. I'll show you that in a second, but at any rate, let's get this flipped over and I'll show you what else I'm working with. These are the stock bolts that held the old original caliper bracket to the spindle, but instead of going up this way, they now go in this way. I ran a thread tap through those holes because they generally are rusted up at the end and the bolt won't go through cleanly, so just run a thread tap through. These are a 1/2 inch spacer, so I've got a 1/2 inch steel spacer in there, and then I whipped up a quick bracket. Everything is within spec as far as the pad, where the pads sit on the rotor. What I'm going to be doing is probably offering these caliper brackets, and then I'll have a list of the parts and part numbers that can be crossed for this. Now once you get these on, the cool thing about these brackets are the well, I really don't even need to take it off. Cool thing about the bracket is it's flat, so there's really no modifications to anything. You're just turning the bolts around the other way. Oh, I'm zooming in here. Whee! All right, you're just turning the bolts around the other way and going back in the spindle that direction. This caliper clears everything between both control arms there at full lock, as well as full suspension compression. So one more time, that is a stock spindle. That is a stock 82 up, 82 to 8 or 82 to 88, I believe. G body rotor, as well as I believe the same rotor specs up until the early 2000s on the S10. The only difference being there's an ABS ring on the later ones. That is an S10 caliper for a first gen S10. S10 brake pads, S10 brake pins, 1/2 inch steel spacers, my caliper bracket. That's a set 30 inner bearing with that machine seal, a set 2 outer bearing with that sleeve that's used on the inside of it, the Chevette washer, and then a Chevette castle nut with the cotter key slots cut deeper, so you can actually put a positive retaining cotter key of some sort in there. And then that puts normal 14, 15, what have you, like 4-inch offset, 7 or 8 inch wide GM wheels, all just fit in there like stock. I'll include another picture here so you guys can see, but so this is most likely going to be my go-to from here on out as far as the basic swap. for those that aren't getting a big V8 that don't, or aren't going to be a corner carver that can't benefit from the better spindle. Now, I still recommend doing a heavier duty spindle for those that are abusing the car. The factory one really is kind of tiny, but if you're going to leave the stock engine in there and leave the car mostly stock and you just want better brakes and cool wheels, why not? One thing I will stress to you though, while this narrows the track width a little bit on the front, it doesn't do anything for the rear, and a 4-inch offset wheel will still poke out of the back a little bit, which some of you may like, some of you might not. In this particular case, I'm going to narrow an S10 rear end a 1/2 inch on either side to match the track width that I'm going to get on the front of this Chevette. That way I can run the same wheels on all 4 corners, makes tire rotation nice. So, but there it is. And it's nice, it's smooth, everything's going to work out great. It puts the brake hose down towards the bottom, so it's going to stay kind of out of the way. And again, you get to run your favorite wheels now on your favorite car, just with a little bit shorter sidewall on the tire. So until the next update, guys, keep that shiny side up.